Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
If you're gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Why, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 233 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as always, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I really do appreciate you making my podcast one of them. If you are enjoying my podcast or enjoy this episode in particular, I would love for you to take a screenshot and share it on your socials and tag me. It would be super cool to get to know you a little bit, as well as you getting to know me by listening in to this episode. You can get the show notes with all the links that I talk about in this episode on my website at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/233. Did you happen to get a chance to listen to last week's episode? It was all about marketing to your ideal client. But of course, first working out who the heck they actually are. If you didn't listen to that one, head back there. And if you're thinking, you know what, Jen, I've done lots of work on my ideal client, I don't need to listen to that episode. Really just kind of remember that it's good to relearn stuff. Sometimes we hear things a different way because we're in a different spot in our business. And also, there's a fair chance your ideal client has changed in the last couple of years. So it's a really good episode. Head back there and listen to episode 232. I love doing solo episodes and talking to myself, but I also love it when I get to chat to other amazing business owners who have expertise that I simply don't have. This week is no exception. My guest is Anna Lamb from Uplifting Value. The title of the episode kind of gives away what Anna and I will be talking about. The episode, of course, is called Are You Charging What You're Worth? So, this is Anna's expertise. She is a numbers lady who specializes in making sure that you're charging what it is that you're worth. Anna has spent over 20 years across lots of industries, including tech and telecommunications and publishing and travel, and, just has had a really great overall experience in business. But she's also seen, individuals, including herself, really undervalue themselves and impact their self confidence and feeling resentful. So she's decided to, immerse herself in this world where she's helping others to truly step into what they are worth. Anna founded Uplifting Value with the vision of helping small female led businesses value their work over their price. So, of course, pricing themselves accordingly to what they are worth. Anna also has Anna also has a freebie for you today that you can download. It's her free reflections questionnaire to really help you to begin to understand what the building blocks are around pricing and how to provide some clarity around how your work actually adds value to your customers and your clients. You can find that freebie at bit.ly, so bit.ly/Anna Lamb, ANNALAMB, Anna Lamb, bit.ly/Anna Lamb. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's hear my conversation with Anna. Hey, Anna, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
I'm going really good, really good. Anna, I'm really happy to have you on the podcast. We have met from an amazing membership that we both belong to in one roof. And I remember being in a room with you, and the things you were talking about was like, hang on, my audience needs to hear this as well. So I'm stoked to finally get you on the podcast. For my amazing listener, this is Anna's first podcast. So she it's like a first time for her. So that's really exciting for the both of us. So Anna, for my amazing audience who perhaps don't know you or would like to get to know you a little bit better, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your business?
Well, thanks, Jen, and thanks for the kind words. And so Oh, well, I'll start with my business.
Yep.
My business is called Uplifting Value, and I help female-led businesses price their product or services in an uplifting and empowering way. This is after being in helping corporates price their product or services for over 20 years. So some of the products or services that I've priced has been coach tours, ebooks,
Yeah.
professional services, and PCs and laptops. And so I come from a very varied industry background, and so I want to actually help female-led businesses with valuing their work's worth and pricing accordingly.
Yeah, it's such a big thing, pricing. And that's what I guess I haven't come across someone who specializes in pricing for small business owners, for, women-led businesses. And even if you aren't a woman or don't identify as a woman, there is lots of gold in this podcast. So don't tune out just yet. But it really, I think, as business owners, somewhat of our worth is wrapped up in what we think people think about us. So I really wanted to explore that for you. And sorry, not for you, with you. And one of the things that you had written down when we kind of went through a bit of a sheet earlier was valuing your work's worth rather than valuing your self-worth. Can we dig into that? Because that is super interesting.
Yes, well, the thing is, a lot of people put in to their pricing their self-worth,
Yeah.
and it brings up a lot of undercharging because a lot of people don't value their self as much. But what I like to emphasize is that it's your work's worth. It's what you are providing to your clients, the value that you bring to your clients, and it's more, in the position of being of service to your clients, rather than thinking I'm pricing myself, I'm pricing me, rather than this is my work, this is how I serve my clients.
Do you think that it's easier to value a product than what it is to value a service? Because a product kind of has inputs, it has labor, it has charges, it might have freight, as opposed to someone like myself and yourself, where we are bringing a wealth of knowledge to the table, just not that 1 hour that people are paying us for. Do you find that one is harder to, I guess, get over in a mindset way than the other one?
Well, from my perspective, it's actually more interesting to price a service, because in all honesty, you can price anything at any rate. There's no limit. There's no, you can price at zero if you like, but then
you won't be around for long.
Yes, exactly. So that's why with a service, you can price using the value that you bring a lot more than a product. A product historically, and from my experience, has always used a methodology called cost plus. And it's funny. Someone mentioned to me yesterday, "Oh, how do I do my costing?" And it's actually quite an old-fashioned way, where you take all the costs of the product, in this case, and add a margin or a markup. So there's a difference in there, and we can discuss that in maybe another podcast. But it's not really showing what you are providing to your clients. It's saying that this has cost me this much, and I will factor in some risks in terms of all costs of marketing, that kind of thing, to cover that. And this is the price. And then you might compare the product with a competitor or that kind of thing. a lot of the time, value-based pricing, which is what the methodology that I use, is for a product is, what is the additional unique feature, let's say, or value that you bring to a client, and there is definitely room to move, but not as much as when you're pricing a service where it's really specific to the client, and there's a lot more connection that you get to the client through your pricing.
Yeah. And I think, just the difference between pricing your self-worth and pricing your work's worth is just such an interesting concept. Like, I know, I have sent off quotes, like, I do keynote speaking, which is, really something that I really want to do more of in my business. And I've sent off quotes, I've written them and pressed the send button so nervously. So, just send it. Like, am I really worth that? But I know they've got the budget for it. So I'm like, no, I'm going to go for it. I don't feel comfortable doing it. And, I always say, goals should stretch you and not break you. So it's just like, well, if they come back and say, look, we don't quite have that budget, how about this? Then I'm still winning because I haven't underquoted myself. But I know, like, I think everybody kind of gets nervous of pricing themselves. And I know even as a retailer, back 6, 7, 8 years ago, we would get products into the store, and, either my staff or sometimes even my business partner would be like, oh, will people pay that? Well, we won't know till we try. Like, it's kind of like, let's start at the top and work down. And it's a real mindset. And I think when you are pricing yourself, you are the product. Like, I am the product in my business and you are the product in your business. It is really like a matter of, I guess, getting over ourselves in some ways.
Yes, and shifting that mindset so that it's your service, it's what value that you provide to the clients, and what desired outcome that you has helped the client achieve.
Yeah. And one of the things that you've mentioned, which I thought was seriously just like really interesting, was, how or why, pricing yourself as an hourly price might not be the best model for you. Like, what other models are there if we're not pricing ourselves as an hourly rate?
Well, for one thing, if you base your pricing on an hourly rate, the more experience you get, the quicker you get, the less you're going to earn. That's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And if you think about your skill set and everything like that, you really should be thinking, oh, the more experienced I am, the more I should charge. It's as basic as that. And so when you actually move towards what outcome am I providing to the client, what questions can I ask the client to determine that outcome, it shifts away from I'm valuing my time, I'm valuing what I do, to what outcome does my client need, and how do I serve my client, and what is the appropriate percentage that I can charge on that outcome.
Yeah. And the value you bring to the client, I think, is the most important bit to maybe take away, that it's not actually about you. It's
Yes.
actually about your client. Just like marketing, it's not actually about you. It's very mean, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know who said it, but it was like, I read somewhere not so long ago that having a small business is kind of like a self-development course who we never saw coming. And it's just like, oh yeah, it kind of is. We kind of all need to get over ourselves and realize, this isn't about us. It's actually about our client. So I guess one of the biggest takeaways for anyone listening is, if you haven't raised your prices in a couple of years, then maybe you should, because you're probably more experienced than what you were a couple of years ago. But if someone comes to you, Anna, and they're really stuck in pricing themselves or pricing a product, is there one particular piece of advice that you often hear yourself repeating?
I would, especially if that business is, even have one or two clients is, have you asked your client, what value do I get from your services, and try to get that in numbers. A lot of testimonials, it's like, oh, Jen was really good, she was really efficient, and efficient is quite a compliment, but it all underpinning that is the time that you save by actually providing that service. And that is a number. Time is a number. And so if you get a testimonial that says, oh, Jenny's very efficient, plus she saved me 2-3 hours of work, that is a lot more compelling than just Jenny's very efficient.
Absolutely. It's like I used to do some work with long-term youth unemployed, upskilling them into retail skills, and we used to do their resumes and things like that. This is going back a little while now, and one of the things on their resume was honesty, and I'm like, that is so the bottom of the barrel of qualities that people are looking for. They expect everyone to be honest. Can we think of something else to put at the top there? Because it's like saying Jen was friendly. That's okay, but no one really cares, because that won't move the needle in their business really. And that's what that's what you're paying for a service. Well, in this case, that's the service that you're paying for. But one of the things when I get a little bit of pushback from people as to my pricing, I will often ask people what's a client worth to them? What's the average spend that they have, or the lifetime value of their client or something? And then it's kind of like, so if I can get you one new client, I'm covered. And then, you only need one more to then be more profitable. And just that simple language to make them sit back and go, oh, well, that seems more doable. So it's dealing with objections when it comes to pricing as well.
Yes. And if you continue to ask questions in terms of what value you provide to the clients, it's actually also showing that you understand how the client does business, and it also clarifies the scope as well in terms of your work.
Yeah. So how do we price ourselves? How do we jot down our experience? Is there a formula? Is there, what would be your best advice if someone's listening going, well, I don't really know how to price myself?
Well, it's funny because a lot of people ask me if there's a formula, and yes, there is a formula if you want to use cost plus pricing. The formula is get all your costs, add a margin, and that's your price. But if you want to actually provide value and be able to price the value of your work, then I would go back to your previous clients as the best source of information, of data, and start collecting the data, the value, and have the probing questions of, how does my work affect the revenue of the company, or the time saved, or the time saved in making a decision. Sometimes it's just your expertise in saving the company time on making a decision, which is just as important. And then for a new business, it's looking at your expertise, and looking at what problem are you solving for your client, and then actually looking and talking to prospective clients in terms of what is the problem, just like marketing. Yeah. What is the problem? How does my solution solve it? And then dig deeper in terms of what is the numerical value that you provide to the client.
Yeah, great. I like that. And if if you've been any good, you've developed a relationship with that client, and hopefully that you can go back and ask some quality questions and get some quality answers. Do you recommend at all that we look sideways and look at our competitors to perhaps decide what our pricing should be, especially if we're new to business or we're changing up our business model a little?
Well, it's definitely good to have a benchmark, but if you have a unique proposition or a unique value proposition, you would want to be priced on that rather than taking on, your competitor's pricing proposition, or how your competitor views value and what value they bring.
Yeah, yeah. I like that answer, because sometimes that's the first place we head to when we don't know how to price something. We do head to our competitors, but of course they haven't got your skills, they haven't got your know-how. Otherwise, they'd be hijacking you and putting you in their business. But that's not the way it works. Do you ever come across anyone, Anna, in your business that is overpriced and feel that they need to look at pricing, or is everybody who comes to you underpricing themselves?
No, I've actually had a conversation with someone that thought she was overpriced, but clients still pay. And so,
Yeah.
is she really overpriced if clients are willing to pay?
I would say no, but the pricing expert might have a different answer to me.
No, no, I have exactly the same answer.
Yeah, which I guess then that's almost wrapped in their self-worth then, isn't it?
Yes, and I'm nodding
Full
my head,
circle.
even though this is a podcast.
Yeah, so that's full circle. So yeah, that's really good. Or not really good, but it's understandable how that's how we work. And I think women in business, I don't know, you said you work with women in business. Do men have these issues of wrapping themselves around their self-worth and their pricing? Is it universal, or do you see it more in women?
It's definitely universal. I actually just got an email today that said, I want to work with you, even though I'm not female. I'm undercharging, and
Yeah.
so it's a universal issue, but I think it occurs a lot more in females.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. Anna, thank you so much. It's been a really interesting conversation. And I love the fact that you have sort of set out a little bit more of a strategy as far as pricing goes. I feel that a lot of people get nervous putting out their prices, especially now, like interest rates are going up, the economy is coming out of COVID. I don't know whether we're heading into a recession or we're not. No one's talking about it. Inflation, like, is there a best time to put up your prices or a worst time to put up your prices? Or is it really just a matter of looking at your value?
I think it's if you have a connection with your pricing, with your value, then putting up your prices or changing your prices is connected to how you have delivered your experience rather than the macroeconomic factors. Interestingly enough, in the pricing community, and there is a pricing community, uh, there is the question of whether it's easier to put up prices in this, high inflation environment. But in the end, it's pricing is your company's decision. So it's pricing that works for you. That's, I think, is the most important, because as business owners, a lot of the time you're told, you should do this, you should do that, this formula and everything like that. But in the end, it's whatever works for your business.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And whatever's going to keep it alive and profitable. Like, no use not moving your prices if that means that the profit's going to go down. You have to sack people, or you have to fold and move on. Anna, is there anything that we haven't spoken about today that you would like to put into the podcast before we finish up?
Just one thing, like even though we are pricing based on value, you also need to do that costing exercise to make sure that when you price on value, you are covering your costs, you are making money so that you can continue your business and continue making an impact and everything like that.
Yeah. I did an exercise with a client just recently where I got her to price out everything, like from coat hangers to electricity to phone to, computer repayments to, fittings and everything that was in that business, just to see how much it costs to operate that business on a daily basis. And I can tell you the results were quite astonishing, and there will be some strategic decisions made based on that information, because sometimes we look at costs and we kind of brush over everything it takes to run a business. Whereas, if you really want to know what it's costing you, you need to do the costing exercise.
Yes, totally agree.
Yeah. Anna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If anyone wants to reach out and have a chat to you about pricing, what they can do to help themselves as far as pricing their service or their goods, where's the best place for them to get in contact with you?
The best place would be on my website, which is upliftingvalue.com.au, or through LinkedIn, which is Anna Lamb, or Uplifting Value.
Beautiful. I will have those links in the show notes for anyone who would like to get those. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Anna. This has been really interesting.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Did you enjoy that conversation? I really hope you did. Look, it was Anna's first podcast interview, and I think she did an amazing job really helping us see our value and how we should be pricing ourselves accordingly. Of course, don't forget Anna's freebie that she's offered you as the listener. You can find that at bit.ly/Anna Lamb, or of course you can find it at the show notes at socialmediamarketing.com.au/233. No, 233. I was going to give you the wrong link there for a sec. Anyway, they're the links. I'm sure that you would get some great value out of Anna's little freebie there. If you've got questions, then let's head to the Facebook group, Like-Minded Business Owners. If you're not a member there, then join in the conversation. If you love this episode and found it valuable, look, I would really love for you to take 30 seconds out of your day and leave me a rating and a review. Because, my goal is to reach more small business owners with this podcast and help them make a difference in their marketing, but also in their business. And of course, to make their business simpler, which is the whole idea behind the podcast. Anyway, I will see you next week for episode 234. And if we're not already hanging out on social, come and find me on social media. You'll find me at Jen Donovan on Instagram, Facebook, and of course, LinkedIn. But whatever you do, remember my small business beep. As my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.